Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Jag from Jag's Watches, and in today's video we're talking about the Swatch Omega collaboration, also known as the MoonSwatch. I want to review a particular model that I think is the best one yet. Before we get into it, let's talk about the MoonSwatch. Back in March of 2022, Omega and Swatch announced one of the most controversial partnerships, I would say. We all know that Omega is owned by the Swatch Group. In my mind, it was genius when it came to marketing. These particular watches took the legendary Speedmaster and reimagined it in a bioceramic material. Now, in other words, bioceramic is basically plastic, but the great thing about this lineup was that it only cost £250. Now, as you can imagine, people queued for hours, resellers went crazy, and it became one of the most hyped releases in the watch world, I think, of all time. Arguably of all time. But of course, this divided the watch world. On one side, you had people saying it was an absolute disgrace that they weren't real watches. On the other side, people were arguing that it lowered the barrier to entry and got people into watches. And I have to say, the first watch that I was bought was one of these watches. And not to say that it got me into watches. I was always very much interested in the watch world. However, it was one of the watches I started to wear, and it was a mission to Saturn. My wife bought me that watch when we went to Venice. But now, 2 years later, after they released the lineup in 2022, I think they've just released the best one yet. And it's been out now for the last couple of months. And I'm talking about the mission to Earthphase. This is the first watch that has an Earthphase complication. Now, I don't know why you would want to know what the Earth looks like from a moon's perspective. I don't care about the actual logic behind it. I just love the fact that I have a watch, the only watch that has an Earthphase complication. Alongside the Earthphase complication, it has a Moonphase complication. Now, I want to give you my opinion before we go into the review of this watch. My personal opinion on the MoonSwatch is that it's great fun. I don't take the lineup very seriously. However, this particular watch, the Mission to Earthphase, for me, was a must buy, and it was an impulse buy. I did buy it just after Christmas of 2024. It was very difficult to get hold of, as a lot of these new MoonSwatches are when they're first released. However, it was one of the most beautiful dials I personally had seen in the lineup. And I love wearing these watches for two reasons. They're lightweight, and the second reason is I don't have to worry about them too much when I'm in and around London. You know that watch theft is a huge thing in London, and I don't really have to worry too much when I've got this one on my wrist. It tells me the time, it's got a chronograph feature as well, and the Moonphase and Earthphase, aesthetically, for me, it's absolutely beautiful. It's got a nice grained dial texture as well. Before we get into the review then, let's break it down why, in my opinion, this is the best MoonSwatch. The design, I think that this is definitely the best colorway yet. The reason I say that is it stands out. You've got the Moonphase as well as the Earthphase. And I think that this is one of the most wearable MoonSwatches because of the color combinations here. You've got so many bright colors in the lineup that, for me personally, I just think they're a little bit too loud. But I totally get it's almost an opportunity to have a pop of color in your outfit. So I totally get why they've made such a colorful lineup so far, ceramic. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. What that basically means is that it's plastic, and that's the general consensus for bioceramic. I think it's just a fancy word to make us feel better that we're spending £250 on a watch, on a plastic watch. Yes, that is the case. However, I think there's a place for this in a watch collection. I think you need a watch that isn't heavy, that you don't mind bashing around a little bit, and I have bashed this around quite a lot, and so for me the build quality is good enough. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you drop this off a 20-story building, it's probably not going to survive. But if you're doing that, then, I mean, what do you expect? You'll notice that my particular watch has a NATO strap on it. I'm a huge fan of James Bond, and I thought that this particular NATO strap went really well with the colorway of the dial and the case of the particular watch. And let me know in the comments if you like this combination. For me, it was a no-brainer, and so I had to get that. I want to also mention the movement. Now, again, a touchy topic. We're talking about the fact it's a quartz movement, so it's a battery-operated movement. Again, divided opinions in the watch world. people believe that quartz watches aren't real watches and you shouldn't really appreciate them, etc. But I do again feel there's a place for a quartz watch in your collection. And the reason I say that, there's something about just picking up a watch and it being already ticking away and on time. Don't get me wrong, I don't find a huge issue with picking a watch out of the box, winding it up and setting the time again. I mean, it takes a couple of minutes. But again, I'm on the fence on this. I don't think a quartz watch is an abomination. I don't think, you know, they shouldn't be classed as real watches. It is a real watch. It tells the time. And again, I do think there's a place for that. So this does run a quartz movement. And talking about battery life, I had the mission to Saturn. So I bought that that was bought for me in June 2023. And just before the new year, so 2024, the battery ran out. So that lasted around a year and a half, which isn't really too bad. Don't get me wrong, it's a little bit annoying having to change batteries, but they've made this watch in a way that you can just order the battery and place it in yourself. So that isn't a huge issue. But let's be honest, a mechanical movement in this would have been amazing. But again, just having the accuracy of a quartz movement is not the end of the world. And I think when you're spending, you know, £200 to £300, in excess of £300 with this particular model, then, you know, that's what you have to expect. So why do I think this is the best MoonSwatch? It comes down to the Earthphase and the MoonPhase for me. I mean, just having the only watch that has an Earthphase makes it unique. And I do believe that this dial, the grained effect, the white hands, and just the way that the green of the Earth, as well as the black and white of the two moons, you know, contrast with each other. It's just very interesting. It's a dial that I catch myself looking at, you know, on a day-to-day basis when I'm wearing it. And my wife's sort of looking at me weirdly thinking, why does he keep looking at his watch? But yeah, anyway, it comes down to the dial. It comes down to the colorway. It's definitely, for me, the best out of the lineup. And if you were just going to pick one MoonSwatch, I would recommend just going for this one, because it just will go with so many different outfits. You can, you know, dress it up if you want to with a leather strap. As I said, I've got a NATO strap, so for me, this is a watch that I would wear very, very casually. Nothing really too fancy. One thing that I'm slightly unaware of, I don't know how easy this watch is to get at retail. I know they resell very, very fractionally overpriced. A lot of these resellers are somehow just getting hold of them before people actually want them. But I was lucky enough to sort of walk into the one in Covent Garden in London and just pick it up. Just when you walk, if you feel like you want this watch, just try your luck now and again. And I think sort of 6 months after release, they become a little bit more readily available. That's what Swatch has always done. They've always sort of reduced the amount on release to build that hype, build that craze around them. And eventually they then give a lot more to these particular Swatch shops in London. And there's quite a lot of flagship stores around the UK. I mean, all you need to do is go onto the website and you'll be able to find out which Swatch shops have this particular model. So, yeah, that was a little review of and a little bit of an opinion piece, I think, of what I think of MoonSwatches and why I think this is definitely the best MoonSwatch. Let me know in the comments how you feel about MoonSwatches. I know a lot of people hate them. I know a lot of people love them as well. So I'd love to know what you think of them. Which one is your favorite? There's so many different colors, so many variations in this model now that it's almost quite difficult to know which one is your favorite. I've given my opinion of why this one is. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more content. I really appreciate all the subscribers and comments and likes so far. I've been Jag from Jag's Watches, and remember, timing is everything. Peace.